Hello, my name is Katie, and I'm going to show off the new Same Wavelength website. I thought it would be a good time to kind of look at some of the work that I've been working on for my brand, I guess. I don't really feel comfortable calling it that, but we'll see. Same Wavelength is uh, basically a concept that I've been working on for a few years. When I was in my graphic design MFA program, my thesis was something called Supermassive, which was supposed to be a theoretical streetwear brand that used the aesthetics and concepts of science to bring popular science ideas to the public. So if that sounds convoluted, it's because it was. And basically, I wanted to make things like t-shirts and short films and animated things that would help explain somewhat complicated scientific topics to the public by making science seem fun and nostalgic and exciting and interesting. There's a huge wealth of popular science culture, and there always has been. And my sort of entry point to science when I was a kid was stuff like animation and video games that were science themed. So the Mythbusters or Beakman's World or animations like the Magic School Bus, Ozzy and Drix, different things like that. So, and Bill Nye, obviously. So what I'm interested in is because I'm not particularly able to have my own television show. I guess I could have my own TikTok channel. What I wanted to create was graphic design. So actual physical things that people could look at and interact with that help, if not explain science fully, then at least give people a taste for science concepts. So this is the website, which I've been working on the last few days. And this is definitely the aesthetic that my own personal work has always been. So I sort of view this artwork as an extension of just my normal work. But it's something more than that. It's something very specific. So I've been crafting this kind of aesthetic for a long time, and I think it's very well suited to the kind of work that I want to create for Same Wavelength. So Same Wavelength, the phrase refers to my personal idea that the arts and sciences are on the same wavelength, which is very contentious, even though the arts and sciences have always been in tandem for a long time. There's very much a culture war at play between, I guess, college student. I don't know. In my life, I've definitely experienced the fact that it seems to be that universities or institutions really pit or prioritize students differently. And there's this weird divide between people who are science leaning, people who are art or humanities leaning. And in practice, I don't think that's the case. I've met many scientists, pretty much every science interested person I know either has some artistic hobby, music or art or otherwise, or they're interested in the arts. And similarly, I feel like artists are always constantly being inspired, if not by science specifically, then at least by natural phenomena and the universe and big philosophical questions. So anyway, Same Wavelength refers to that idea. And this page, I can talk more about the website, um, is called Waves. And basically my idea is when I was making Supermassive, which was the MFA thesis theoretical design brand, in basically a not a graphic design, a streetwear brand when they publish new, or not publish, I'm mixing my words. When new clothing comes online, it's called a drop, like when you drop products all at once on the website. And instead of drops, I wanted to have waves, so waves of products or waves of concepts, which is just my name for this website of different ideas. So that'll become clear in a moment. But basically, each wave is a different topic that I want to explore. And so it's a different set of images that are related to each other, or often just like one major poster that's been broken down into elements for other things. So what that means is like if you shop ever, if you're into fashion or clothing or whatever like I am, you know that each company, like a let's say like a purse company will release a seasonal wardrobe. So you'll have dresses and maybe new fabric patterns and purses and different things. And so each season will have, or each month or 2 months or whatever, will have a new like related batch of products. And that's a way to do branding. It's a way to sell more clothing. It's a way to convince people that they need to continue buying things. And that element of commerce is not necessarily what I'm interested in, although I guess I would like people to buy my products, but that's a whole other thing. The reason I want people to buy this work and why I also haven't even been selling it in the past, even though I designed this first poster like months ago, is that what I'm interested in for my brand and why I hesitate to call it that is that I'm more interested in people being able to buy my posters or whatever to have a connection with science. My whole idea, I've done printmaking for a really long time, when it comes to art is that I want to put like to make posters, to have someone put a poster in their office, by their desk, in their bedroom, and to be able to wake up every day and look at that poster and have it influence how they think about the world or what they think about. And that sounds very propaganda-y, but when I was a letterpress printer, often the studio I worked at, we would make just inspirational posters that weren't hokey, but were very active or very inspiring. And I still have a lot of those posters on my wall, and I wake up every day and I'm like, oh, like I can do X, Y, or Z. So the idea for these objects is less about I just want to sell a bunch of stuff because there are easier ways to do that than spending a lot of time and love designing things and running a business myself. Uh, but what I am interested in is primarily educating people on scientific topics and also having this sense of fun, excitement, and nostalgia when it comes to education. It's a very interesting time for education, just in the world, in terms of COVID, in terms of the internet, in terms of a lot of things happening. And I feel like if I can contribute a little bit in terms of getting people interested in math and science through art, then I've done something right. So this is the first wave of products. It's based on this poster that I did a while ago. Basically, when I was a kid, my parents, I don't even remember this specifically, I must have been at a zoo or something. My parents bought me two little stuffed animal poison dart frogs of different colors, like bright colors, which is what the frogs look like in real life. And it created this lifelong attachment. I like really remember the frogs specifically fondly. And I was like, well, that would be a great place to start. So that's why I created all these products. So this is the poster, bookmarks, tote bag, mugs, water bottle, like all of these different things that anyone could have an attachment to, basically, like having your favorite water bottle that has poison dart frogs on it. And basically, my idea is that having these designed objects would lead one to wanting to learn more about the thing. Now, that's not proven. I don't know that that's necessarily true. I just hope that that's kind of the energy that the brand gives off, is that I want to get people excited and interested in the same way that you know, memory, nostalgia, emotions are really powerful. And often I remember scientific facts or phrases or words or whatever from childhood that came from certain animations or video games or whatever. Like I think most people in my generation know the word aglet because there's a Phineas and Ferb episode that references that word, which is like the shoelace tip. So if I could somehow create not memes, but like specific little bits of knowledge and art for people, then that's great. So this is the smallest amount of information about a specific topic that I could sort of combine. So this is meant to be like, I've actually printed out these on like neon paper, but basically this is a front and back. It's not really a zine because it's just one piece of paper, but, or sorry, it's one like page. It's not folded, it's not a little magazine, but basically this is sort of the, I don't want to even call it a prototype because it is a thing, but it's the first sort of test I've had of combining my illustrations with information about a topic. So my plan in the future is that I would have a more in-depth, like booklet zine type thing with more information about each wave. But I'm not there yet, which is ironic because this whole thing is supposed to be a sciencey. But I guess I really want to be visual forward, which is the whole point of being a graphic designer, is catching someone's attention and then bringing their awareness to something or getting them to learn more about whatever. Anyways, so we have our second wave, which is big cats. When I was a kid, I had a book on big cats and it scared me to death because some of the pictures are just terrifying, but it was also really interesting. So again, just these things that I was inspired by as a kid. And again, trying to have a similar aesthetic. Everything starts out as a hand drawing by me. So every single one of these frogs I drew in a sketchbook and then brought into the computer to be cleaned up and in this case, or in all cases, colored. So that's how you get that sort of flat aesthetic, but everything was drawn by hand by me in real life. And I think that's really important for me to have that as a starting point. These running cats are actually not hand drawn by me. These are actually, I talk about that a little here in this scene. These are frames from an Edward Muybridge uh, photo test, or not even a test, just a photo series. And that's kind of what I'm interested in, is I want to bring in elements of history and animation and photography and all of these other things into my work about wildlife. Even though there's not necessarily that connection immediately when you think of tigers, it's cool that I can have little educational tidbits about a bunch of different things. So, and this is all one woman show, so I'm obviously not an expert in every single field that I'm tackling. There's no way that I possibly could be. So these are just little bits of information that I'm sourcing from like open source websites online, trying to just get things that are really well documented, facts that are not obvious, but like very simple but interesting. So this is like a comparison of how fast the different cats are. And yeah, I don't know, it's super exciting to me. This is the third wave. This is different Los Angeles. I guess you could call these wildflowers. Some of them, like Jacaranda blooms, are not what I would think of as wildflowers because they're on trees, but maybe I need to educate myself on the definition of wildflower better. But basically, what I'm interested in is, even though this has the same line quality because it's from literally lines from my hand, um, this is an Art Nouveau take on my style for this specific poster. So I really want to expand my horizons in terms of how I draw, because there's very specific things that I do a lot in my art. Every designer is like that, where they have their kind of signature colors and lines and shapes and things. But I really want to, this brand is also an opportunity for me to expand and grow as a graphic designer and illustrator. So, and mind you, I did a lot of this like in one day. So it's not perfect, but it makes me happy. So anyways, so this is this, and I really wanted to explore the difference between native and uh introduced slash invasive species. So these are two kinds of morning glories that you can see in Los Angeles, and I think the white ones are native and the bluish ones aren't, which is kind of interesting because I like the blue ones a lot. And basically in the zine, which I have yet to design because I just designed all these images yesterday, um, I really want to talk about sort of where these plants come from, what it means to come from a place and then live in another place for a really long time, and kind of that sort of almost conservation ecology biology take. I've been interested in a lot of fields my whole life, from neuroscience to physics to biology. I did a very small amount of conservation ecology after I graduated from college. So I have an interest in all of these things, and I want to share that interest with people through something beautiful. Like if you had this nasturtium sticker on your laptop, then maybe you would think more about flowers, or it would just even make you happy. So to be determined whether that's how that works. But yeah, and then some of the stuff is it is still sci the main theme is I really want every drop, every poster, every wave to be somewhat sciencey, because I also really want to have a write-up and a zine explaining science concepts. But some stuff is just like silly. Like I just love tomatoes. And that's why I made this poster. This kind of like retro, funny, silly looking poster that um, I guess after the fact, this is very much giving like Clay Hickson vibes in my mind, of this kind of retro style and the highlights. But that was not intentional when I was drawing it. This is just how I draw tomatoes. But Yeah, like, and then this is totally different with the grid background, very like 80s. Um, anyways, I'm getting off track. I'm also gonna write a zine for this one and have more data, or not data, but like emphasis on what it means to be a different kind of tomato. If something is the same species, how do you get really radically different? How do you get from being a really tiny cherry tomato to being a huge heirloom tomato with a bunch of different wrinkles and things? And that's really what I want to focus on is even the most mundane thing like a tomato has a lot of really interesting like science and genetics and all of these other things behind it. And yeah, like if I could get people just thinking a little bit more critically during the day about their everyday experiences, that would be great. Like everywhere I go, I am constantly seeing typography and I'm seeing how if I was to take a photo of something, what like how I would have to edit the sky to be in focus with the buildings and all these other things I learned from my photography classes, my typography classes, and whatnot. And so I'm constantly looking at the world through a graphic design perspective, but I'm also looking at it through science perspective, where I'm really interested in all the plants around me and how they got there and why they look different and the different adaptations they have. I have a hawk who visits my backyard, and getting to know him and experience his way of the world and with his female hawk partner down the street when they are in the nest together, it's very interesting. So I'm constantly trying to figure out how these different elements in my life are interacting. So, anyways, uh, to learn a little bit more about same wavelength, this is just the page of my explanation of like, here's what I did my MFA about, and here's the stuff I was making, and why it is the way it is, and then also my contact information at the end. And that's it. Um, these icons are clickable, so you can click this and it will bring you down to the specific wave. And that's the whole website. So for now, so I'm gonna be making a lot more informational zines. I'm gonna make them more informational and longer. And I'll probably have downloadable PDFs on the website as well so that people can save the information that I'm sharing. This video is going up on my YouTube, and I'm gonna sort of repurpose the YouTube channel instead of being just me talking. Hopefully I can interview a bunch of scientists. And that's that. So thank you so much for paying attention, and I'm excited to continue this journey.